status, he asked, why was it okay to call him a Nazi in the first place when he couldn't defend himself? Joe Concha joins us now. So, Joe, this seems consistent with her show. I'm not a watcher. Is this kind of thing, is this sort of this normal joke on the Samantha Bee show?
It's a very hateful show, Tucker. This is what late night has become, unfortunately. It's no longer the days of David Letterman before he became a curmudgeon, or Jay Leno, of course, Johnny Carson. This is what it's about. And look, that is the main focus here. Not so much, they wouldn't have attacked this kid if they knew he had stage 4 cancer and was going through chemotherapy. Any reasonable person would say that. But when you, on national television, show a 20-year-old college student and you call him a Nazi, in the context of his hair, in the conference that he is attending, here are the consequences that could happen. Take the cancer part out of this. He goes back to campus. Do you think he gets mocked and bullied? Well, given the hostility on college campuses, probably. And then what happens next? He either brushes it off or it goes in another direction that we've seen on so many college campuses, and that is that it spirals into a thought process of possibly even hurting yourself or worse. We saw it at Rutgers in New Jersey, where a kid was exposed as being gay, and before you knew it, he drove up to the George Washington Bridge, Tucker, and he threw himself off. That's how quickly these things can spiral out of control. And Samantha Bee has yet to apologize for calling this kid and other kids there a Nazi. Instead, she does this half-baked apology like, we're sorry we offended you. Hey, Samantha, here's an idea. Why don't you pick up a phone, because this kid has stage 4 cancer. There is no stage 5, and apologize to him directly by phone in your own voice instead of a stupid tweet that wasn't even an apology in the first place. Sorry, I don't get emotional, Tucker, but this really got me angry.
Well, it also seems, and here's the other problem, it doesn't seem very funny. I mean, is this a state of play in late night kind of political lectures rather than jokes?
Oh, well, I don't know if you caught Stephen Colbert on election night. He does a special on Showtime, and it's supposed to be a celebration of Hillary Clinton's victory. And he doesn't even have any jokes planned if Hillary actually lost. And he doesn't know what to do when it's clear that Trump is going to win. So he has somebody on his panel, and her name is Jana Friedman. She's an alleged comedian. And he says, so how you feeling right now? And let me give you the quote, because this is what comedy is in 2017. She says, I feel as if I'm about to give birth to a baby that's already dead. Ugh. Stephen Colbert is a devout Catholic. We hear it all the time. And instead of him saying, you know what, I get that we're in a politically incorrect world. I get that even if you're pro-choice, you probably find that offensive. He doesn't say anything. Instead, he makes a joke. He says, hey, that's the kind of panel discussion you have on Showtime these days. So that's where we are in 2017, Tucker, where we call strangers Nazis without them defending themselves or having the ability to defend themselves. And if a president or a candidate wins the presidency, then we're comparing it to stillborn births.
So here's something I did find kind of funny. None of that's funny as far as this is funny. So I read the other day where Samantha Bee was going after somebody for not being diverse enough. Someone is racist and hasn't reached the elevated moral status of Samantha Bee. Yeah. Everyone's not hiring enough women of color, I think was her accusation. Here's a picture of, I think I took this from your column. Here's Samantha Bee and her writers at one of the endless award ceremonies. Those are her writers. Doesn't seem like a very diverse group to me.
Yeah.
Where's the self-awareness here, Joe?
She went after another cable network where he used to work at one time, MSNBC, and said that they don't have enough black women on the network. So, since I'm a journalist, I actually was curious, and I thought, well, gee, I wonder how many black women work for the Samantha Bee Full Frontal show. And I looked at all writing credits and directors and producers, and I found 33 people. Guess how many out of those are African-American women?
I don't know, 25?
One. So
but
she's preaching about diversity and hiring more black women, and she's 1 for 33.
And calling people Nazis. She's got 33 people writing for her show?
No, it's writers, directors, and segment producers, all in aggregate.
That's a lot. A show like 8 hours long? How long is it?
It's once a week, and I believe it's an hour.
Would
you like that kind of staff here? Or do you have the same thing?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I could make my Cocker Spaniel a star with a staff of 33. And it would be more diverse than her staff, I'll tell you that. That's hilarious.
You own a Cocker Spaniel. I didn't see that.
Yeah, we do. Joe, thanks. Great to see you tonight.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Well, up next, the press claim illegal immigrants almost never commit crimes, and if anything, they're more law-abiding than you are. Way better than you are. We'll talk to Ann Coulter, who says that's not true. Stay tuned. Administration are doing their best to undermine the current administration. For more detail, we go now to the great Trace Gallagher standing by. Hey, Trace.
Hey, Tucker, this was kind of an I told you so moment for some right-wing publications and others who in recent weeks have been bandying about this theory that holdovers from the Obama administration were leaking information to derail the Trump presidency, and that the former president himself was staying in Washington to be actively involved in an alleged shadow government. Then Pennsylvania GOP Congressman Mike Kelly, speaking at a private dinner with fellow Republicans, said this. Listen.
President Obama himself said he was going to stay in Washington until his daughter graduated. I think we ought to pitch in and let him go someplace else, because he's only there for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to run a shadow government that is going to totally upset the new agenda.
As soon as the private dinner comments went public, they created a ton of interest. But Congressman Kelly wasn't alone in his suspicions. Today, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer said this. Watch.
I don't think it should come as any surprise that there are people that burrowed into government during 8 years of the last administration and, may have believed in that agenda and can want to continue to seek it.
Though Congressman Kelly's office is now trying to walk his comments back a bit, saying, quote, "It is worth clarifying that Representative Kelly does not believe that President Obama is personally operating a shadow government. He does believe it would be helpful to the new administration if the former president would personally call for an end to all leaks and obstruction by personnel from his administration." And we should note today, Attorney General Jeff Sessions asked for the resignations of the 46 remaining Obama-appointed U.S. attorneys in order to ensure what the White House calls a, quote, uniform transition. Tucker.
Trace Gallagher. Thanks, Trace. Well, President Trump has created a new office in the Department of Homeland Security for the sake of tracking crime committed by illegal immigrants here. Well, today, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer reiterated that halting illegal immigration is a top priority for the new president. Watch.
He has made enforcing our nation's immigration laws a top priority, signing executive orders that start work on a southern border wall, that enhance the public safety of Americans through ordering the strong enforcement of immigration laws that are already on the books, halting funding to jurisdictions in the United States that don't comply with federal immigration rules, and directing the Department of Homeland Security to hire a combined 15,000 new officers and agents to support the system and protect the nation.
What a waste of time, say the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Associated Press, and virtually everyone else in Washington. Illegal immigrants, they tell us, commit far fewer crimes than native-born Americans do. Ann Coulter is an author. She spent a lot of time researching this matter, and she says the Times, the Post, and the rest of the press are totally full of it. She joins us now. Ann, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So you are routinely described as a provocateur, but at least on this subject, you're legitimately an expert. You wrote an entire book on this, and there was a lot of original reporting in it. I read it. A lot of other people did. They can vouch for that. So on this specific question, immigrant crime, the Times told us again and again, that's not true. They commit less crimes. What is the fact? What are the numbers on this?
I have all the numbers we have. There aren't very many, and I do think it's quite telling that it's always my side that wants the real numbers, and I hope we'll get them under Attorney General Sessions. I do think that is the entire reason for this hysteria.
Yes.
They absolutely want to take Sessions out because they want to keep this dump of the third world going on America. It's not just that, and there's a lot of evidence that immigrants do commit more crime. Otherwise, I don't think the left would be so hysterical about why are you deporting? Oh, if it's just a small crime. Well,
right.
I don't know. How many small crimes have you committed? And these are guests in our country, but it's also the kind of crimes they're committing. So, I mean, one thing that's been driving me crazy is hearing Paul Ryan. I mean, his specialty is we got to reform entitlements, and that means you Americans, you're going to have to wait longer to collect your Social Security and Medicare, and we're going to have to means test it. So maybe you've been paying in your whole life, but and it's true, it is a Ponzi scheme, but I have another idea, and that is to stop bringing in immigrants whose specialty is committing crimes against our entitlements programs. I was trying to capture this for my book, Adios America. I mean, just start noticing whenever you see a headline. There was one last year, $1 billion stolen from Medicare in Florida. Look at the names and ask yourself, would I have seen these in a phone book in America, 20 years ago? Up in Michigan, it's very heavily Arab, Florida, heavily Hispanic, New York. York, well, all over. It's Arab, Russian. These aren't crimes we are used to. American criminals are dumb, which gives the police a little bit of an advantage, but they don't understand that in other cultures, it isn't just dumb people who are criminals. And there's a specialty in computer hacking and credit card stealing and ripping off government programs, which it's barely even considered a crime.
But these numbers shouldn't be hard to get because people who are processed through the system, who are arrested, adjudicated, imprisoned, we ought to have numbers on where they're from, what their legal residency is, what their nationality is. Do we have those numbers? They must exist somewhere.
No, they don't. No, it drove me crazy. That's how Adios America became Adios America. Immigration was going to be just one part of that book. I'd already drafted a few chapters for the book I originally was going to write, which I still think is a great idea for a book. Maybe I'll write it someday. And I got to the immigrant crime part because I thought, I mean, isn't that the most basic thing we should know about people we're bringing into our country, people who have no right to be here? Forget about, how much they're contributing to the system or how much they're taking out in welfare. Just how many are committing crimes? What kind of crimes? How much does that cost the country? And I'm a fanatical researcher, and you cannot get that information. Every time I describe the process of what you find when you go looking for it. The census collects all kinds of information. I can tell you, how many Samoans have battery-powered radios, how many Americans have broken stair railings. But if you want to find out how many immigrants are in prison, state or federal, good luck to you.
So, I mean, then clearly this is willful and it's in effect a cover-up. It's what's happening in Sweden right now, where the government makes it a policy to lie about the effect of their immigration policy.
Yes, that's right. And it's not just that we are bringing in criminals. I mean, you'll always hear, even if it were true that immigrants, and I mean legal and illegal, were committing fewer crimes, no, the number we want is zero. We want zero. It's not like we don't want the same number of criminals as the native population. It's crazy. As I've said, it's like, you have bad food in your refrigerator. You don't go out and get other bad food to bring in. No, you can pick any food you want. Get the fresh food. Well, that's us with immigration. Let's get only good immigrants who are smarter, make more money. We ought to be like the Patriots, recruiting players.
Well, exactly. So the other stat that you often see batted down by the New York Times and others is that immigrants consume a lot of welfare benefits. And so the line you often read is actually immigrants, legal and illegal, consume welfare at a lower rate than native-born Americans. Is that true?
No, what they do is define only certain programs as welfare, or there are other tricks. I mean, there are all kinds of lies that are used when it comes to the immigration topic, but one interesting little fact is the 1996 Welfare Reform Bill. As part of that bill, I was working for the Senate Judiciary Committee back then. One of the provisions was immigrants could not collect welfare for the first 5 years they were here. And, across America, people were saying, that's not already the law? No. They were very upset about it at the New York Times, denounced that provision over and over again. That provision, welfare, you can't accept welfare for the first 5 years you're here if you're a guest in our country, was the biggest cost savings of welfare reform.
Huh.
And it's all been overturned by now, by the way. Thank you.
Well, so and that's the question. So there's no factual basis to the claim that immigrants consume welfare at a lower rate than Americans.
No, it's quite the opposite. I mean, Center for Immigration Studies has the numbers. I think generally what they're talking about is what used to be called aid to mothers with dependent children. There's one particular, one particular. If you would define all other forms of welfare, subsidized housing, Section 8, food stamps, free health care, if none of that, or Social Security disability, if none of that is called welfare, so they're looking at one program, and also, B, if an illegal alien drops a baby in America, well, that's not an illegal immigrant. It's maybe an immigrant, but suddenly the baby is allegedly an American citizen, something no Congress has ever passed that law, no court has ever upheld that. A child born in America is not a citizen, and I hope Trump starts enforcing what the real law is.